Hello everyone, Turtlelags here bringing you another AFK Journey video. Welcome to part 2 to the beginner's guide to AFK Journey. Now, the focus of this part 2 will be on team building across various game modes such as Dream Realm, Standard Arena, Supreme Arena, as well as AFK Stages. But I will also include at the start of this video the Celeshypo Summon Priority, because I forgot to talk about that in part 1 of this video. So without further ado, let's begin. So as I mentioned in the previous video, there are 6 different factions. There's Lightbearer, Wilder, Mauler, and Graveborn, but additionally there are 2 premium, actually now there's 3 premium factions, which would be Celestials, Hypogeans, and a 7th one that was released a week ago called Dimensional Faction. Dimensional Faction is basically the game's way to introduce truly limited heroes that once they come off of the dimensional banner, you will no longer be able to summon them in the traditional sense. And usually, or at least this time, it's in the form of a collaboration, such as in this case, it's a collaboration between AFK Journey as well as a very popular anime called Fairy Tail. So as you can see here, you get roughly 28 days to summon for the collaboration heroes, after which they disappear and they do not go into the wish list, which we talked about last time. Yes. As a new player, you'll probably need to do a little research on whether the dimensional heroes are worth summoning for. In my opinion, they're not game breaking enough for you to summon for either of them. And with the event, you could reasonably get Lucy, one of these 2 collaboration heroes, from 0 copies to Supreme Plus. I think that's quite reasonable to achieve. But anyways, I digress. So kind of going over Celestial and Hypogeans, as of this recording, which would be May 4th of 2025, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Celestial Hypogeans that have been released. Just to kind of give you an idea of how long it takes to fully ascend a Celestial Hypogean, if, say, you are in an active guild, you are maxing out your weeklies, getting 7,000 guild medals a week, and are also participating in battle drills, guild supremacy, and clash fronts, you should be getting anywhere between 1.5 to 2 copies of a Celestial Hypogean per month. And so that would be 8 copies of a Celestial Hypogean per season. However, there are other ways to get Celestial Hypogeans as a free-to-play player, such as selection chests that will come from events as well as the end of each season. And so I would say that it is reasonable for you to fully ascend a Celestial Hypogean from 0 copies to Supreme Plus within 1 season. And so for this reason, if you are a free-to-play player who has been playing since the global launch, which was March 27 of 2024, you should have at least 4 Celestial Hypogeans fully ascended. Now, which ones should you prioritize first? Well, later on we will be talking about Dream Realm and the importance of it, and I would say that hands down the first hero that you should be fully ascending is Elijah and Lila. And the reason for this is because this is a very impactful, future-proof healer that provides a wide array of buffs, offensive buffs like attack and haste, as well as energy, which is required to get your ultimate off for your various heroes. And the twins, they additionally, the thing about Celestials and Hypogeans is that they count towards the faction bonus for any faction. And so for this reason, to enhance the overall damage output of your heroes, you want to try to focus on one faction as much as possible and jam as many Celestial Hypogeans as you possibly can that will help you with Dream Realm. So Elijah Lila, I would say, is the top priority. However, realistically, you will need about 1 to 2 copies of Fresto. The reason for that is because 1 or 2 copies of Fresto does more damage than the majority of Mythic Plus DPSs in this game against, say, like the Primal Lord, like Lone Gaze or Alpha Bear, as well as a lot of the Dream Realm bosses. And the reason for this is because Fresto does, I think his skill 1 or skill 2 does damage based off of, the enemy loses 2% of their max HP per second. And this is very powerful because the higher difficulty that you face in Dream Realm, the more max HP they will start off with. And especially if you're going against a Primal Lord, a Primal Lord is going to take the average server about 10 to 11 days to defeat. And so their max HP is going to be huge. So for this reason, max HP scaling damage dealer like Fresto, who happens to also be a very solid tank, these are the reasons why Fresto you should build as well. So typically what I would do is I'll probably summon for 1 copy of Elijah Lila, 1 copy of Fresto, and then after that I will focus on Elijah Lila. And then as you build these 2, there is also consideration to build Rainier. And the reason for this is because Rainier, when you get the EX weapon, you are able to increase the damage taken by the enemy by 25%. Now the problem with summoning for Rainier is that nowadays the Dream Realm bosses are more unique in the sense that you really need to build different teams for different Dream Realm bosses, and Rainier is not as prominent in as many, or not as effective against as many Dream Realm bosses as he was in the past. So for this, and also you need to get 8 copies of Rainier to start to get the value, and that'll take you at least 3 months. And so for this reason, what I would typically do is I would say Elijah Lila first, Fresto, and the third hero would probably be someone who can have immediate impact. You can go Rainier. You could probably focus Rainier next. Another consideration would be Tulin, because Tulin, in addition to Dream Realm viability, she also is one of the most powerful heroes in PvP. Harak is also another important hero who is good in Dream Realm. He's not as effective in PvP because he is a hero that he is a hyper carry, but he is a double-edged sword because periodically he will feast on the weakest hero on the map. It could either be your allies or it could be the enemies. So when he's eating your allies, this kind of feels bad because you're essentially helping your enemy, your opponent, pick up KOs. However, Harak is quite powerful in Dream Realm and also is necessary against certain AFK stage enemies. So your priority will be mainly on Elijah Lila, Fresto, and then for your third hero it will either be Rainier, Tulin, or Harak. Now if you are a low spender, Dolphin, or Whale, you can consider building a hyper carry for PvP. Hyper carry means like it's a high damage dealing hero that can take over games. Examples of this would be Cryonaya and Athalia. Most whales can only build one of these heroes just because they need to build the other 5 heroes that I mentioned before for Dream Realm. But if you are a whale who can invest in yet another hero, or if you are someone who is playing this game for PvP and you just want to dominate in PvP, you can consider building Athalia or Cryonaya. Now, Athalia is probably the more flexible of the hyper carries because you can splash her in any team and do well. Cryonaya is her ability to take over games is based on her ultimate, where she freezes enemies, isolates the 3 highest damage dealing enemies, and just like 1v3s them and freezes them to death. And so for this reason, Athalia might be the better choice. And if you want another future-proof hero, you could consider Dunleer, because he is a tank who is capable. He has 2 different modes. One mode is Spellbind and the other is Cure Lock. Basically, at the start of battle, he will ring the bell of order and apply one of 2 effects. If you have him set on Spellbind mode at the team formation setting, he will turn off all ultimates cast within the first 13 to 12 to, I think it's like 12 seconds of the match. And so this is quite good for executing your game plan. A lot of people like to pair Dunleer with either Athalia, or in the past they would pair with Dianel in order to basically shut down the enemy's game plan and execute your own. Because Dunleer, he applies the clemency chime to the rearmost ally in order to allow that hero to have the exception to the rule. Essentially, what you would do, as an example, is you would have Dunleer on the Spellbind order, and then have, say, like your Athalia or your Cryonaya being the beneficiary of the clemency charm, so that that hypercarry is the only one that can cast their ultimate during the first 12 seconds of the match. And then the rest of the heroes, such as Burial is like a squishy DPS that can revive. He's like an energy stealer. His damage output isn't that great, so most people will skip him. And then Dianel has fallen off as a DPS, just Athalia is strictly better, so you won't be summoning for him either. Scarlita used to be quite good, but now she's kind of niche, although she has made a comeback with the presence of Athalia, because Scarlita also is a celestial like Athalia. What Scarlita does is she goes up into the air, shields your weakest allies periodically, along with providing them defensive buffs. Then she'll slam down on the field at around the 10 to 12 second mark and start stunning enemies and potentially yeeting them, just knocking them off of the field once their HP goes low enough. Yeah, so that is Celeshypo Priority in a nutshell. Alright, so now moving on to Dream Realm. Dream Realm is a boss mode where you assemble a team of 5 heroes to try to score as high against the enemy as possible. Basically, you want to be the one on your the person on your server doing the most damage. And there's various modes. It starts, I think, with Common 1 mode, and then it goes Common 2, then I think like Epic mode, then Hell mode, and eventually it gets to Endless mode, which is, you see the infinity sign. This is the toughest game mode. It's the final game mode where you just try to deal as much damage as you possibly can. Dream Realm is an incredibly important game mode that you should be doing every single day, because you want to get a high rank in order to pick up these awesome rewards. So typically you want to be top 10, top 20. I would say if you are a whale, you want to be top 10. If you are a dolphin, you want to be top 20. If you are free to play, if you are top 50 or top 100, you're actually doing pretty good. A server will generally have about 300 players in the server. Yeah, and the most prized rewards, I would say there's 2. One is the temporal essences, these orange slices, you can say, that allow you to level up your EX weapon of your heroes. And then the other one are dream fragments, which you can use to purchase copies of A rank heroes in the Emporium. Not to mention you get really cool outfits as well for a limited time. So this is why you do Dream Realm. And just keep in mind that for temporal essences, you need to get 75 temporal essences to bring them from EX5 to EX10, like a given hero. And for this reason, you need to basically be top 10 for at least a month in order to bring one hero from EX5 to EX10, which is the reason why it's so important to rank as high as you possibly can in every single Dream Realm. And typically for Dream Realm, you will rotate, in pre-season, you will rotate between 4 different Dream Realm bosses: Lone Gaze, Skyclops, the King Croaker, and one more hero. And then when you enter a new season, then the bosses will change from, let me see if I can toggle between them. Yeah, so these are examples of different Dream Realm bosses. So when you enter a season, there will be, like in this season, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different Dream Realm bosses. And each one of these Dream Realm bosses have different characteristics, and you can explore their kit by clicking the eye for information and seeing what they do. And it's going to be too time consuming to go over the strategy against every single Dream Realm boss, but you do want to pay attention to the kit. For instance, against Thalassa, your melee heroes won't be able to touch her because she's like far away. You need to use like ranged physical and magic damage dealers. And then Crystal Beetle, you want to like spread your heroes out into 3 different lanes. Plague Creeper, you want to bring heroes that are great multi-target, and then Shell Brute, you need to focus more on positioning because he will freeze, I think, 2 allies that are in a certain position. Snow Stomper, he will silence the ultimates of your heroes periodically, so you want to bring heroes like Odie who can do high non-ultimate damage. These are some examples of things to think about. So, and then in the case of Lone Gaze, he is a mobile boss who gets stronger the more KOs he picks up. So for this reason, you want to bring heroes that have a good balance of supports and tankiness. That way he doesn't pick up a single KO and get stronger. Now, going over different heroes that are good against Dream Realm bosses, the thing is you can look up different content creators like myself, like Puzzle, like Zebo, for the latest strategies for different heroes. But the truth of the matter is, when you are starting your account for the first time, you're going to be in pre-season. So a lot of the guides that content creators like myself will upload will not be perfect for you, because it could be like an old guide that uses outdated heroes, or perhaps, and this is actually the more impactful thing, when you are starting the game, it's impossible to fully build every single hero if you're free to play. Even a whale, you would need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to fully Supreme Plus every relevant hero for Dream Realm. And for this reason, you have to be creative with what the game RNG gives you in the summon system. So just a couple tips to get you going here. Typically, when you start the game, you're not going to have access to these season spells. You're going to get the OG spells, we call it. So these 6 right here, like once you finish the main story. The best spell hands down to run in Dream Realm is going to be Star Shard spell for pre-season. So if you're starting the game, as soon as you progress far enough into the story, I think like you'll unlock Star Shard spell probably within the first 2 weeks of your account creation. Swap to Star Shard spell, because this one will be the artifact spell that improves your damage output by increasing your haste, as well as doing true damage to the enemy, supplementing your overall damage output. So Star Shard spell would be what you would swap to. Typically when team building, because you can summon 5 heroes, you want to bring 1 tank, at least 1 tank, 1 support and like 2 DPSs. So just to give you an example, remember what I mentioned about Celeshypo Priority? You want to get 1 copy of Fresto, 1 copy of the twins to start things off. Some people will argue hyper-focus on Elijah and Lila, but I would humbly disagree, because the best tank that is not Fresto to run against most Dream Realm bosses would be Thorin, and there's no guarantee that RNG will be on your side and give you a copy of Thorin, even if you have him on the wish list. And so for this reason, I would just save yourself some headache. Just pick up 1 copy of Fresto. That way you will have a reliable tank against any Dream Realm boss that you come against, that you face. So, Elijah, Lila, Fresto, I would say this is pretty much the core of every single Dream Realm boss you will create. I can't think of an exception to this. And then you want to bring a reliable healer. The best healers to bring would probably be either Ludovic or Mikola or Smokey. And the reason for where's Smokey? Yeah, Smokey, who I have on the field, as well as maybe a support healer such as Coco. And the reason for these heroes is because Ludovic, Mikola, and Smokey, Smokey and Mikola, these are healers that provide offensive buffs to improve your overall damage output. Mikola by herself might not keep your team alive, so usually you'll have like Smokey as your primary healer, and then as a sub healer you would have either Mikola or Coco. Mikola if you want more damage output, Coco if you're getting one-shotted. Coco becomes more important in endless mode because at some point, particularly against the Skyclops, there will be a certain point where if you score a high enough amount of points, the boss will start one-shotting you, and this is where you time it so that your Coco ult will shield your entire party before the Omega Hyper Beam comes out by the Dream Realm boss. Yeah, and Ludovic is a very powerful front-loaded healer who doesn't rely on his ultimate to keep your team alive. There's certain Dream Realm bosses like Snow Stomper in particular. Snow Stomper is the one that turns off your ultimate, that actually if you don't have a Ludovic, you won't score as high, because Smokey actually relies heavily on his ultimate in order to heal your party, and actually if Smokey gets crowd controlled at all, he is unable to heal for 4 seconds. And so Smokey's terrible against Snow Stomper. But anyways, I digress. So, Fresto, Twins, 1 or 2 of the supports that I mentioned, and then you'll have 1 or 2 DPSs. The strongest DPSs you'll want to bring are Odie, Lily May, Faramore, and the newest hero, Shamira. And the reason these 4 heroes are excellent damage dealers is because the 3 of them, notably Shamira, Faramore, and who was the other hero that I mentioned, does true damage, bypassing the enemy's defenses to basically maximize their damage. Faramore is very, very impactful because Faramore, he can make himself do true damage as well as an ally that he basically blesses in the team formation section. So if I was to take this out for a brief moment, I bring out Faramore. Notice how Faramore has like a kind of aura around him, as well as an aura for the ally directly behind him. So typically what I would do is I would say, as an example, Faramore and Lily May, right?
Understood.
So, well, Lily May already does true damage, but if you were to say like do Odie, yeah, so Odie doesn't normally do true damage. However, you can have Faramore apply his blessing aura onto Odie so that he does do true damage. Odie's great because, like I mentioned before, his damage output is not impacted that much outside of a like if say you're going against a Snow Stomper silences your party, making them unable to cast ultimates. Odie's damage output is not as impacted as most other heroes. So yeah, so this is an example. Oh, another good DPS who falls off later is Bonnie. Bonnie does decent amounts of damage as well. And then Volca is an honorable mention, although Volca, even though she does true damage, her damage output does fall off later on. So, you know, if you are a free-to-play player, it might not be worth investing in her from the start. I actually forgot to mention Volca as an honorable mention for wishlist priority in the previous video. However, I think the reason why I left her out is because during my free-to-play experience on the Vietnam server, I quickly found out, maybe like at the 3-week mark, that dumping resources into Volca is kind of bait. It actually is not that great later on. Volca does fall off. Okay, so that's pretty much it for team building for Dream Realm. Alright, so moving on to Standard Arena, this is probably the first PvP mode that you will face. And Standard Arena, basically how it works is that you go 1v1 against a person based on your ranking. So if you are a higher rank, like I'm currently rank 2 on my server, if I was to challenge someone, so I'll go ahead and challenge someone, typically how it goes is you will get something like this where you can compete against one of 3 different choices. One person will be within the same ranking as you, one will be like slightly lower ranking than you, and then the highest one will be someone who is either around your ranking or higher rank than you. And naturally, if you beat an opponent who is higher ranked than you, you will get more points than if, say, you were to beat someone who's lower ranked than you. When you are starting the game, it is in your best interest to climb the ranks as much as possible. You get oh yeah, and by the way, if you don't like these opponents, so like say, you know, you look here like, oh, okay, I can handle this one, or, you know, I can handle this one, or, oh, this is too powerful. But let's say like you're facing against, like your options are against guild members and you don't like that. Then what you can do is you can click the refresh and it'll change the selection of people that you can face. So as you can see, like this person changed. And so, you know, you have up to 7 refreshes per attack. And you get 5 attacks per day. Yes. So, and then in Standard Arena, you also will create your defensive formation. And as you get higher and higher ranked, the amount of arenas that, like basically map options that you can create formations for, increases. So when you start the game, you'll get probably access to the first arena. And as you climb the PvP rankings, you'll unlock Arena 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Arena 5 Special. And each one of these maps offer different terrain options that favor certain heroes and kind of, you know, incentivizes you to create team formations that, you know, have certain strategies. If you are a free-to-play or low spender, I highly recommend that you just stick with the basic arena formation, because specialized arena formations like this one or this one require specific heroes that allow you to attack from 2 different lanes. And that might be a tall order for like a free-to-play player. Yeah, and so, you know, when it comes to team building for Standard Arena, I would say, you know, make sure your tanks are in the front, your healers are in the middle, more back, or in the middle, depending on what kind of healer they are, and that you have, you know, your DPSs, your ranged DPSs in the back, and your melee DPS is more in the front. Melee heroes tend to be tankier than ranged heroes, but this is not always the case. So be sure to read up on the individual kit of the heroes as well as their class to make sure that, you know, tanks and warriors you have in the front, supports you have more in the middle and the back, and ranged marksmen and mages are in the back to protect them because they tend to be squishier. And then for PvP artifacts, if you are starting, well, actually with standard arena you only get access to the 6 OG spells. First you'll start off with the awakening spell, which is not great, and then later on you'll get, I think, enlightening spell, which is good, confining spell, which is very good, and star shard spell. Iron will is good too. I would say the top artifact spell to go with is confining spell, because this will periodically imprison up to 3 enemies periodically, which will make it so that they cannot move, they cannot act, and that is a very powerful ability. There's some situations where you will want to run enlightening spell to make your rearmost ally crowd control immune for a couple seconds, as well as provide a temporary attack speed buff to allow them to do more damage. If you have a not very strong tank and your tank is dying very quickly, you can consider the Iron Wall spell to periodically shield them. And then if you are looking to flat out just damage output, you can run Star Shard spell to increase the haste of your party, as well as do periodic damage to all enemies on the field. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for team building. Now the reason why you care about ranking up in arena is because there's various tiers that provide tier rewards. So kind of going over the tiers, for standard arena, you will start off here, Elite 1, or actually there's one before that, Adept 3, I guess, Novice. Oh my god, there's so many. Anyways, just keep climbing. I would say at the beginning you want to try to beat as many people as possible, and as you beat people, you know, every day at the daily reset you will get something called arena coins, which you can exchange for S rank heroes, like a selection of, I think, 10 of them, 10 choices. And as you can see, the higher rank you go, the more daily arena coins you can get. And you need about 9,000 arena coins in order to purchase one S rank hero. So reasonably, if you were to say, I think if you are a free-to-play sweaty player, you can realistically reach Elite 3 within, I would say, the first week, and maybe Epic 3 by the end of like 3 weeks. And if you are very sweaty free-to-play, you can actually in about 3 to 4 weeks enter Champions League. And Champions, and you know, Champions includes Legendary 1, 2, 3, so on. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. So there's Legendary, and then there's Champions. I'm sorry. So you need to reach Legendary 3,200 points in order to enter Champions. And Champions is important because once you enter Champions, you will get access to purchasing Stargaze, basically stellar crystals for celestial hypogean purchases, or summons, I'm sorry, and that's very important for the progression of your account. Your goal in standard arena is to reach Champions, because this will unlock the valuable stellar crystals for purchase in the Emporium. Yeah, so you want to enter Champions, and actually when you enter Champions, or when you enter Legendary, this is when you start accumulating one-time rewards of temporal essences. Yeah, so it's quite important for the progression of your heroes. Okay, so now moving on to Supreme Arena. Supreme Arena is a game mode, a PvP game mode that you will not have access to until the new season starts for your server. If you watched my previous video, you will know that when you create your account, your account will be created, your character will be created on the newest server that is available. And the new server will be in what's called a pre-season for 40 days before a new season will occur. And when the new season appears, that's when you get access to something called Supreme Arena. It's essentially PvP where you need to create 3 teams, and I'll go into formation so you see what I mean. So you need to create 3 teams of 5 heroes, and each team has to consist of 5 unique heroes. So yes, in Supreme Arena you will need to have 15 built heroes that are able to compete against someone else. And this might seem like impossible in the beginning. As a rule of thumb, when team building, you want to try to create 3 teams that have certain synergies, and in the beginning you won't have that many choices. So ideally, if you go into the filter system, I would highly encourage you to use this. You can toggle between different factions and try to create teams of individual factions. And the reason for this is because in a season, there's something called season faction talents. You see the symbol on the top right. When you have at least 3 heroes from a given faction, such as Celestial Hypogeans here or Wilders here, you activate these season faction tiles. I call them the faction McDouble tiles, because basically heroes that are on these glowy tiles become designated as what's called prime carriers that allow them to get additional abilities. For instance, for the season faction Wilder tiles, when the battle starts, the prime carriers become invincible for the first 8 seconds of the battle. Or if you have a Celestial Hypogean faction talent activated, the prime carriers on these 2 glowy tiles will restore energy and enhance their ultimate damage output. So, there's 5 different factions. Celestial and Hypogeans, they are grouped together into one faction talent, you can say. So yeah, you need at least 3 out of 5 of the heroes on the team to be of the same faction in order to get this benefit. And I highly encourage you to, even if you don't have your heroes fully built, to have at least one of these faction talents activated for every single one of these teams. Yes, so I think by the time you watch this video and get access to a new season, there will be brand new season talents, season artifact spells, because this season 3, as of this recording, only has 2 weeks left before the new season begins. So there's no point in going over these talents right now, or artifact spells. If you want to have like a more in-depth guide regarding the best performing standard arena as well as Supreme Arena teams, I highly encourage you to check out my previous videos. I did release a standard arena comprehensive guide as well as a Supreme Arena comprehensive guide earlier this week, going over the top performing meta teams. But anyways, just like with standard arena, I would say the most impactful thing is to create teams that have as many heroes of the same faction as possible. Make sure your tanks are in the front, your supports are in the middle or back, and your ranged DPS is in the back. And I forgot to mention that the way the prizes work for rankings is that at the end of each day you get these certain rewards. Unfortunately, the rewards aren't that great, so I would say that standard arena is more important than Supreme Arena. However, it's nice to still, get as high rank in Supreme Arena as you possibly can, because every time you ascend like top 4,000, like I think in the beginning you'll be like rank 3,000 something, and then for every 1,000 ranks that you go up, and then later every 500 ranks you go up, every couple hundred ranks you level up, rank up, the first time rewards are these right here. Or actually no, you get first time rewards that are located somewhere else, and then every day at the end of every day you get these rewards based on your ranking. The most valuable rewards from Supreme Arena would probably be the Twilight Essences, the Season Essences for leveling up your heroes, as well as Season EXP for leveling up your heroes. Everything else is cosmetic and temporary. So and actually if you get high ranking enough, you get these Supreme points, which allow you to level up the frames that appear in your profile. Okay, so the final thing to go over is AFK stages. I'm going to try to keep this short because the video is getting a little bit too long. Now, when you start the game off, you're only going to have one of these, to my knowledge, because when you go into the AFK stages, typically it's just you summon 5 heroes and that's it. However, once your season starts, you'll have 2 different game modes. One is like a standard stage and another is a talent stage, where having heroes of the same faction matters more. As you can see here, there's 2 rearmost tiles that are glowing. That's because I have at least 3 wilders deployed on the map, which activates the faction talents. So it is in your best interest when the season begins to push both the regular stages as well as the season stages as high as you can in order to get those passive resources. Now, kind of going over different strategies, I would say the best thing, your best friend will be the records. So down here there's something that has like a camcorder and play, so when you click on records you will see sample teams of various players who have beaten this stage and how they beat the stage. And this is a great way to kind of take a glimpse as to various teams that are viable for clearing stages. And you will notice a pattern where a lot of AFK stages will encourage you later on to have Fresto and the twins built. And then you'll see certain heroes like Aaron, like Tassie, what else? Faramore, Siren, Lorson, that are quite viable, Olmus and Rowan for AFK stage pushing. So instead of going over various teams, I would just say, go over the records and click copy, so that you will auto deploy the heroes that person used in order to clear the stage. And if you are missing certain heroes, like let's say on your wish list you have Aaron and Olmus, but you don't have a Tassie built yet, then you can use the filter system to see if perhaps you can find a hero who can perform a similar role. For instance, if you don't have a Tassie, you can bring another area of effect damage dealer, such as say like I don't know, like Shamira or Bonnie, to take their place. And then you can toggle between different artifact spells in order to achieve different objectives. If you are someone who is pushing high enough in the AFK stage progression where your team is dying a lot, then you can switch over to an artifact spell that can provide defensive buffs or shields in order to keep your team alive. And you want to have a tank in the front, supports, healers. Typically for AFK stages you want at least 1 to 2 healers, and then you'll have some DPSs such as Aaron and Bonnie or Tassie, Lily May, etc. to beat these enemies. So Anyways, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I hope this was informative. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions, and I will catch you in the next video.